The rain came down in sheets, turning the streets of Lower Manhattan into rivers of reflected neon and darkness. It was 1:47 a.m. on a Thursday night or Friday morning, depending on how you measured time when you hadn't slept in 36 hours. Elena Rissius stood under the broken awning of a closed bodega, her jacket soaked through, her hands trembling as she stared at the address scrawled on a crumpled piece of paper. The ink was bleeding from the rain, but she'd memorized it hours ago. The Crimson Lounge, 428 West Street. She could see it from here, a building that looked ordinary enough from the outside. Red brick, understated signage, a valet stand that was somehow still operating at this ungodly hour. But Elena knew what it really was. Everyone in this part of the city knew. It was Vincent Dante's kingdom. Her stomach churned. She'd told herself 100 times she wouldn't end up here, wouldn't crawl back into the shadow she'd fought so hard to escape. But desperation had a way of making liars out of everyone. 8 months ago, she'd been a different person. Strung out, broken, moving from one bad decision to the next, like dominoes, falling in slow motion. The drugs had started as an escape from foster homes that felt like prisons, from men who took more than they gave, from a world that had decided she was disposable before she'd even had a chance. And then Marco got sick, her baby brother, the only family she had left, the one pure thing in her life. Leukemia, stage 3, aggressive. The doctors had said he needed treatment. Immediately, chemotherapy, possibly a bone marrow transplant. They'd said it with the kind of clinical detachment that came from delivering death sentences daily. They'd also mentioned the cost, $250,000 minimum. Elena had been working 2 jobs, actressing at a diner, in Queens, and cleaning office buildings at night. She'd been clean for 8 months, attending NA meetings, trying to build something that resembled a future. But all her paychecks combined wouldn't make a dent in Marco's medical bills. The hospital had been willing to start treatment on credit, but the debt collectors had already started calling. And in New York City, debt didn't just disappear. It grew. It metastasized, like cancer. So here she was, holding a fake ID that had cost her $200 she couldn't afford, wearing the only dress she owned that didn't have stains or holes, about to lie her way into a job at a place where lies were currency. She took a deep breath, tasting rain and exhaust fumes, and stepped out into the downpour. The entrance to the Crimson Lounge was guarded by 2 men in black suits. They looked like they'd been carved from stone, all sharp angles and cold eyes. One of them was checking IDs, the other watching the street with the vigilance of someone who expected trouble. "I'm here about the server position," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. The guard checking IDs looked her up and down. His gaze wasn't predatory, just assessing, like she was a potential threat to be calculated and categorized. Name, Elena Moretti. The fake name tasted like ash in her mouth. He consulted a clipboard, then nodded to his partner. "She's on the list. Tony will take you inside." The second guard, Tony, apparently opened the door and gestured for her to follow. "This way." The interior of the Crimson Lounge was a study in controlled excess. Dark wood paneling, leather booths, ambient lighting that was just bright enough to see, but dim enough to hide. Music thrummed through the space, something jazzy, an old-school military band playing in the main room. But Tony didn't take her to the main room. He led her through a side corridor, past doors with keypads, past more men in suits who nodded at Tony, but watched Elena with the kind of suspicion reserved for outsiders. The walls here were adorned with artwork that probably cost more than most people made in a year, abstract pieces that looked like violence frozen in time. They stopped in front of a heavy oak door at the end of the hallway. Tony knocked twice, a specific rhythm. "Come in." The voice from inside was smooth, cultured, with an undercurrent of steel. Tony opened the door. "The girl for the server position, Mr. Dante. Sent her in." Elena's heart was a drumbeat in her ears as she stepped inside. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows dominated one wall, overlooking the Hudson River and the glittering sprawl of New Jersey beyond. The rain created patterns on the glass like tears racing downward. The furniture was expensive but not ostentatious. A mahogany desk that looked antique, leather chairs, bookshelves lined with volumes that actually looked read rather than decorative. And behind the desk sat Vincent Dante. Elena had heard the name whispered in the kinds of places where people spoke in hushed tones. Dinners at 3 a.m. Laundromats in bad neighborhoods. Hospital waiting rooms where desperate people made desperate plans. He was a legend in certain circles. The head of the Dante family. One of the 5 families that ran New York's underworld like feudal lords ruling territories. They said he was ruthless. That he'd taken over the family at 25 when his father was killed in a power struggle. That he'd consolidated power by being smarter and more calculating than anyone else in the game. That he never lost his temper because he never needed to. His reputation did the work for him. But none of the whispers had prepared Elena for the reality of him. He was in his late 30s, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. His dark hair was styled back from a face that could have belonged to a Renaissance painting, all strong lines and classical proportions. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Dark, almost black, intelligent and cold and seeing. He studied her the way a jeweler might study a stone, looking for flaws, for value, for what was hidden beneath the surface. "Sit." It wasn't a request. Elena lowered herself into the chair across from him, acutely aware of how she must look, soaked through, makeup probably running, cheap dress clinging to her frame. Vincent didn't speak immediately. He picked up a crystal tumbler filled with amber liquid bourbon, probably, and took a measured sip, never breaking eye contact. The silence stretched. Elena had learned in her years on the street that silence was a weapon. The person who spoke first usually lost. But she wasn't playing games. She was here for a job. For Marco. "I'm here about the server position," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "I know why you're here." Vincent set down his glass. "The question is whether you know why you're really here." Elena blinked. "I don't understand." "Your name isn't Elena Moretti." It wasn't a question. "It's Elena Ricci. You're 26 years old. You have a record petty theft when you were 17, possession when you were 22. You've been in and out of the foster system since you were 8. No parents on record. You have a younger brother, Marco, 15 years old, currently receiving treatments for acute lymphoblastic leukemia at Mount Sinai Hospital." The blood drained from her face. Vincent leaned back in his chair, his expression unchanging. "You've been clean for 8 months and 11 days. You work at Rosie's Diner in Queens morning shift and you clean offices for Spartan Services at night. You live in a studio apartment in the South Bronx that costs you $900 a month, which is approximately $850 more than it's worth. Your brother's medical bills currently total $273,000. The hospital is threatening to transfer him to county care if you don't make a significant payment in the next 30 days. Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "You came here tonight with a fake ID purchased from a man named Dimitri, who operates out of a print shop in Brighton Beach. You paid him $200. He overcharged you. The going rate is $120. Vincent tilted his head slightly. Should I continue? How? Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. How do you know all that? Because I make it my business to know who walks through my door, especially people who lie on their applications. Terror and humiliation warred in her chest. Are you going to call the police? For the first time something flickered in Vincent's eyes. Not amusement, more like curiosity. No. The word hung in the air. Then what happens now? Vincent stood, moving with the kind of controlled grace that spoke of complete confidence in his space. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the rain-soaked city. Tell me about your brother. The shift in topic threw her. What, Marco? Tell me about him. Elena swallowed hard. He's a good kid. Smart. He wants to be an engineer. He loves science fiction movies and terrible pizza and ... Her voice cracked. He doesn't deserve this. Any of this. And you think you do. I think I deserve exactly what I have gotten. The words tasted bitter but true. I made my choices. I lived that life. But Marco's different. He never asked for any of this. And I'll do anything to save him. Vincent turned from the window, his dark eyes finding hers. Anything is a dangerous word in my world, Elena. I know what kind of place this is, she said, meeting his gaze, even though everything in her screamed to look away. I know what you do. And I'm not asking for charity. I'm just asking for a job. I'll work hard. I won't cause problems. I just need enough to keep my brother alive. And when the hospital bills keep coming, when enough becomes an impossible moving target, then I'll keep working. Vincent studied her for a long moment. Then he returned to his desk, pressing a button on his phone. Rossi, come in. 30 seconds later, the door opened and another man entered. He was older than Vincent's mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair and the build of someone who'd done hard physical work for years before moving into management. He wore a suit similar to Vincent's, but with less polish, more practical. This is Marco Rossi, my underboss, Vincent said. Marco, this is Elena Rixi. Rossi's eyebrows rose slightly, recognition of her real name, but he said nothing. Elena needs a job, Vincent continued, but not as a server. Her heart lurched. Then you'll work as my personal assistant. The room seemed to tilt. You'll ... what? You'll manage my schedule, handle communications, run errands. You'll be discreet. You'll be loyal. And in return, I'll pay you $75,000 a year, plus medical insurance that will cover your brother's treatment in full. Elena couldn't process the words. It was too much. Impossible. Why? The question came out strangled. Why would you do this? Vincent sat down, lacing his fingers together on the desk. Because you interest me. You've been through legitimate hell, not the romanticized kind, and you're still standing. Most people would have given up, given in. But you're here, lying to get into a job you're overqualified for, just to save your brother. He paused. That kind of loyalty is rare. And loyalty is the most valuable currency in my business. I don't understand what you expect from me. I expect you to do your job. I expect you to follow instructions. I expect you to never lie to me again. His voice hardened slightly on the last part. And I expect you to understand that once you step into my world, leaving isn't simple. This isn't a job you can quit with 2 weeks' notice. Elena's mind raced. This was everything she needed, and nothing she'd expected. There had to be a catch. There was always a catch. What's the real price? She asked quietly. Because nothing comes free. Especially not in your world. Something like respect flickered across Vincent's face. Smart question. The price is simple. Your time and your loyalty belong to me. Not in the sense you're probably thinking, he added, noting her expression. I'm not asking you to compromise yourself, but your life will revolve around my schedule, my needs, my world. You'll see things, hear things, things you can never repeat to anyone. Can you live with that? Could she? Elena thought of Marco in his hospital bed, tubes running into his arms, his skin pale and thin like paper. She thought of the doctors' carefully neutral faces when they discussed options. She thought of the debt collectors' calls, the threats disguised as polite reminders. Yes, she said, I can live with that. Vincent nodded slowly. Then we have an agreement. He slid a folder across the desk. This is a contract. Read it carefully. If you sign, Rossi will take you to HR and get you set up with payroll and insurance. Your brother will be moved to a private room tomorrow, and the hospital will be notified that all bills are to be sent directly to Dante Holdings. Elena opened the folder with trembling hands. The contract was thorough pages of legal language that she'd need to parse carefully. But her eyes caught on the salary figure, the medical benefits, the non-disclosure agreement. It was real. I need to ask you something, she said, looking up at Vincent. And I need you to be honest with me. Go ahead. Is this legal? The job? Am I going to be doing anything that could land me in prison? Vincent's expression remained neutral. The work I'll ask you to do is clerical and administrative. You won't be involved in any operations that cross legal lines. I keep that world separate. However, double quotes, he paused. You'll be aware of it. And awareness can be its own burden, but I won't be asked to participate. No. Elena took a pen from the desk. Her hand hovered over the signature line. Last chance to walk away, Vincent said quietly. If you sign this, there's no going back to your old life. This becomes your life. Elena thought of Marco's smile. The way he used to tell her stories about the stars before he got sick. The way he'd held her hand when she'd told him she was getting clean. She signed. 2 hours later, Elena stood outside the Crimson Lounge, watching the rain finally ease to a drizzle. She held a folder containing her new employee ID, insurance cards, and a company phone with Vincent Dante's number programmed as the first contact. Rossi had been efficient and professional, explaining her duties with the detachment of someone who'd done this orientation 100 times. She'd start Monday, 9 a.m., dress professionally, be ready for anything. As she walked toward the subway station, Elena caught her reflection in a storefront window. She looked the same as she had hours ago, wet, tired, desperate. But something fundamental had shifted. She'd made a deal with the devil, and somehow she knew it would either save her or destroy her, maybe both. 3 days later, Sunday afternoon, Elena stood outside Mount Sinai Hospital, watching through the window as Marco laughed at something on his phone. He was in a new room now, private, spacious, with actual windows and a comfortable chair for visitors. The difference from the cramped shared room on the cancer ward was staggering. She'd gotten the call Friday morning. The hospital administrator, suddenly warm and accommodating, had personally overseen Marco's transfer. All outstanding bills had been paid in full. Future treatment would be covered by insurance provided by Dante Holdings. Marco didn't know the details. Elena had told him she'd gotten a new job with better benefits, which was true, technically. She pushed through the door, painting on a smile. Hey, troublemaker. Marco looked up, his face brightening. He was so thin now, all sharp edges and pale skin, but his eyes still held that spark of intelligence and humor that made him Marco. Elena, Check this out. They have premium cable in here. And the nurse brought me ice cream. Real ice cream, not that frozen garbage from downstairs. She sat on the edge of his bed, ruffling his hair the way she used to when he was little. Living large, huh? This new job of yours must be seriously good. What kind of company gives insurance that covers all this? A big one. Corporate stuff. Boring, really. Marco studied her with the unsettling perception of someone who'd grown up fast. You're lying. I'm not, Elena. I'm 15, not 5. You've been working yourself to death for months, and suddenly we're in the premium room with everything paid for. What did you do? Nothing illegal, she said quickly. And that was true. I just ... I took a job that pays really well, that's all. With who? A businessman. His name is Vincent Dante. He runs a bunch of companies around the city. The lie or partial truth tasted like copper on her tongue. Marco's expression softened. Okay. As long as you're safe. I'm safe, I promise. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The hospital sounds filtering in from the hallway, beeping monitors, soft conversations, the squeak of medical carts. I'm going to beat this, Marco said suddenly. The doctors said the new treatment protocol is working. My numbers are improving. Elena felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she blinked them back. I know you are. You're the toughest person I know. Second toughest. He squeezed her hand. You taught me everything. And that was the problem, wasn't it? Elena had taught Marco how to survive in a world that didn't care about kids like them. She'd taught him how to stretch a dollar, how to spot trouble, how to keep his head down and his guard up. But she'd also taught him about loyalty, about fighting for the people you love, even if it meant making deals with dangerous men. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m., Elena stood outside the entrance to Dante Holdings, a glass and steel tower in Midtown that housed the legitimate side of Vincent's empire. She wore a black pencil skirt and white blouse, the most professional outfit she owned, and carried a folder with her new employee paperwork. The lobby was all marble and money. People in expensive suits moved with purpose, speaking into phones and tablets. Elena felt distinctly out of place. Miss Ricky? She turned to find a woman in her early 30s, professionally dressed, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I'm Claire Morrison, Mr. Dante's executive assistant. I'll be training you this week. I thought I was supposed to be his assistant. You are. Personnel assistant. I handle the business side meetings, corporate communications, legal coordination. You'll handle his private affairs, personal appointments, household management, confidential matters. Claire's expression suggested she knew exactly what confidential matters meant. Follow me. They took a private elevator to the 42nd floor. The executive suite was quieter than the lobby, carpeted hallways, muted lighting, offices with closed doors. Vincent's office was at the end of the hall. Claire knocked once, then entered without waiting for a response. Vincent was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian. He glanced up as they entered, made a gesture indicating he'd be another minute, and continued his conversation. Elena used the moment to study the office. It was different from the one at the Crimson Lounge, brighter, more corporate, but still unmistakably his. The same attention to detail, the same sense of controlled power. Vincent ended the call and stood. Elena. Good. Claire will show you the basics. Your desk is outside my office. It'll be my first line of contact for anything personal. Claire handles business, clear division. He looked at Claire. Get her set up with access cards, passwords, and the schedule system. Already done. Sir, good. Vincent turned his attention back to Elena. Questions? About 1,000. But she settled for, when do I start? You already have. I need you to coordinate with my doctor. Annual physical needs to be rescheduled. Call my housekeeper and have her prepare the penthouse guest room. My cousin is arriving from Italy Thursday. And get me the files on the Atlantic Avenue property from archives. Claire was already making notes on a tablet. Alina nodded, trying to memorize the list. I'll be in meetings until 3. Claire will walk you through the systems. Vincent paused. And Elena, welcome to the team. It was the first time he'd said anything remotely personal. Thank you, Mr. Dante. Vincent. When it's just us or Claire, use Vincent. Mr. Dante is for everyone else. The casual intimacy of first names felt dangerous. But she'd already signed the contract, already made her choice. Thank you, Vincent. The rest of the day passed in a blur of passwords, protocols, and Claire's efficient explanations of how Vincent's world operated. His schedule was color-coded: blue for business meetings, red for family matters, black for things Claire described only as private appointments, without elaborating. Alina learned that Vincent owned 17 legitimate businesses, ranging from restaurants to real estate development. He had properties in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. He spoke 4 languages. He was unmarried, and plans to stay that way. Claire had added dryly, but came from a large Italian family with connections throughout the East Coast. What Claire didn't say, but what hung in the air like smoke, was the other half of his life. The half that operated in shadows and handshakes and codes Elena was only beginning to understand. By 6 p.m., Elena's head was spinning. That's enough for today, Claire said, shutting down her computer. You'll pick up the rhythm quickly. Vincent's demanding but fair. Do your job well, don't ask stupid questions, and you'll be fine. And if I mess up? Claire's smile was slight. Don't mess up. As Elena packed her things, her new laptop, her company phone, her access cards, the door to Vincent's office opened. Elena. A moment, she followed him inside. The city was beginning its transition from day to night, lights flickering on across the skyline. How was your first day? Vincent asked, loosening his tie slightly. Overwhelming, but manageable. Claire's tough, but thorough. You'll learn everything you need from her. He moved to the window, hands in his pockets. I checked on your brother's status. The new treatment protocol is showing promising results. Elena's breath caught. You checked on him. I told you his care was covered. I don't make promises I don't keep. Vincent turned to face her. But I need you to understand something. The moment you signed that contract, you became part of my world. That means I protect you. It also means I expect loyalty. I understand. Do you? He studied her intently. Because loyalty in my world isn't about signing papers or showing up on time. It's about trust. About knowing that the people around me won't betray me, won't sell me out, won't put themselves above the family. I won't betray you. Why? Because I'm paying you. Because you're saving my brother. Because you gave me a chance when you could have thrown me out. Because, be quotes, she hesitated. Then decided honesty was the only currency that mattered, because you saw me. Not the addict. Not the criminal record. Not the desperate girl with nothing. You saw the person underneath all of that. And that means something to me. Vincent was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Go home, Elena. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be busier. As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. Elena. Yes, I did see you. And what I saw was someone who's stronger than she realizes. Don't forget that. She left his office with her heart pounding and the distinct feeling that she'd just crossed a threshold she couldn't uncross. And somehow, she didn't want to. 3 weeks later, Thursday evening, Elena had learned quickly that working for Vincent Dante meant living in multiple worlds simultaneously. There was the corporate world, the glass tower in Midtown where executives in designer suits discussed real estate portfolios and investment strategies. This was the world Claire Morrison dominated, with her efficient professionalism and her ability to translate Vincent's terse instructions into actionable plans. Then there was the personal world, coordinating with housekeepers and private chefs, managing Vincent's family obligations, arranging travel for relatives who flew in from Italy or Sicily with little notice. This world required discretion and cultural sensitivity. Elena had learned more about Italian customs in 3 weeks than she had in her entire life. But beneath both of these worlds was the shadow world. The world of late-night meetings at the Crimson Lounge, of phone calls that Vincent took behind closed doors, speaking in codes Elena was beginning to recognize but not fully understand, of men in expensive suits who were addressed with respect tinged with fear. Vincent had kept his promise. Elena's job never required her to do anything illegal, but she saw things, heard things, understood more than was probably safe to understand. Tonight was her first real glimpse into how deep the shadows went. It started with a phone call at 11:43 p.m. Elena had been asleep in her new apartment. Vincent had insisted she move somewhere safer, somewhere closer to both his office and Marco's hospital. He'd arranged a 1-bedroom in a doorman building in Murray Hill, paid a year's rent up front, and told her it was part of the compensation package. She'd stopped arguing about his generosity. Every battle felt like a war she couldn't win. Her phone, the company phone, buzzed on her nightstand. Vincent Dante. Her heart rate spiked. Late-night calls were never good news. "Hello? Elena, I need you at the Crimson Lounge. Now." His voice was tight, controlled, but she could hear the tension underneath. "What's wrong?" "I'll explain when you get here. Car's already outside your building." He hung up. Elena threw on jeans and a sweater, grabbed her keys, and was downstairs in 4 minutes. Sure enough, a black SUV idled at the curb, the same driver Thomas Hood picked her up several times before. "Richie." He opened the back door. "We need to move quickly." The drive through Manhattan at midnight was surreal. The city never slept, but it transformed after dark, frantic, more dangerous. They crossed into the Lower West Side, where the Crimson Lounge stood like a temple to controlled vice. Thomas pulled up to the back entrance, straight to Mr. Dante's office. 3rd floor, end of the hall. Rossi's waiting. Elena's hands were shaking as she entered the building. The club was closed. It was Thursday. They didn't open until Friday, but she could hear voices, angry voices, somewhere below. Marco Rossi stood outside Vincenta's office, arms crossed, his face grave. "He tell you what's happening?" Rossi asked. "No." "Good. That means he trusts you enough to explain himself." Rossi knocked twice on the door. That same specific rhythm and pushed it open. Vincent's office looked like a war room. The desk was covered with maps of the city, photographs Elena couldn't see clearly, and manila folders stamped with red labels. Vincent stood at the window, still wearing his suit from earlier, but with his jacket discarded and his sleeves rolled up. Another man sat in one of the leather chairs, younger, maybe late 20s, with a bandage wrapped around his left arm and blood on his shirt. "Elena." Vincent turned. "Thank you for coming. I know it's late. What's going on?" "We have a situation." He gestured to the injured man. "This is Sal Marino. He's one of my logistics coordinators. He was attacked tonight." Sal nodded at her, his face pale but composed. "Attacked by who?" Elena asked. "The Costello family. The name meant nothing to her, but the way Vincent said it, flat, dangerous, made her understand it mattered. Who are they? Vincent exchanged a look with Rossi, then seemed to make a decision. Sit down. I'll explain. Elena sat. New York is divided into territories, Vincent began, moving to the maps on his desk. 5 families control most of the organized crime in the city. My family, the Dante family, controls the west side of Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn. The Costellos control the east side and Queens. The other 3 families have their own territories. He pointed to red markers on the map. For the most part, we coexist. We have arrangements, boundaries. But recently, the Costellos have been pushing into our territory, testing our response. Why? Because they think I'm weak. Vincent's jaw tightened. Because I've been trying to legitimize more of our operations, move money into legal businesses. The old guard sees that as softness. But it's not, Rossi interjected. It's smart. The feds are watching everyone. Going legit protects the family. Vincent nodded. But the Costellos don't see it that way. They think I'm moving away from our roots, that I'm vulnerable. So they attacked Sal, Elena said, understanding dawning. They ambushed one of our supply runs, Sal said, his voice rough. Jumped us at the docks, took our cargo. Left a message. What kind of message? Vincent slid a photograph across the desk. Elena picked it up, then immediately wished she hadn't. It showed a man bound, beaten, barely recognizable. But she could make out enough to see the brutality. That's Marcus Webb, Vincent said quietly. One of Sal's crew. The Costellos left him for us to find. Elena set the photo down with trembling hands. He's alive. Barely. He's at a private facility now. Vincent's voice was ice. But this is an act of war. The room fell silent. Why did you bring me here? Elena finally asked. I don't understand what you need from me. Vincent came round the desk, sitting on the edge so he was level with her. Because things are about to get dangerous. And I need you to understand what that means. I already know it's dangerous. I knew that when I signed the contract. You knew abstractly. This is concrete. He held her gaze. The Costellos will escalate. They'll try to hit us where it hurts. That might mean targeting people close to me. People who work for me. The implication hit her like cold water. You think they'll come after me? I think they'll look for vulnerabilities. You're new. You'll work in the corporate office. You're seen with me regularly. You're a potential target. And Marco. Vincent's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I've already increased security at the hospital. He's under protection. What kind of protection? The kind that won't advertise itself but will keep him safe. Vincent stood, pacing. I'm telling you this because you have a choice to make, Elena. You can walk away. I'll honor our contract. Marco's treatment will continue to be covered. You'll get severance. But you'll be out of the line of fire. Or you stay. You accept the risk. And you trust me to keep you safe. Elena looked at the maps, the photos, the evidence of a world she'd only glimpsed until now. She thought about Marco, about the progress he'd been making, about the life she'd been building, precarious and dangerous, but hers. If I leave, do I just disappear? Pretend this never happened? You'd sign an NDA with teeth, Rossi said, but yes, you'd go back to your old life. Different apartment, maybe different city if you wanted. Fresh start. And if I stay? Vincent moved back to the window, his silhouette framed against the city lights. If you stay, you're one of us, under my protection. Part of the family, but also a target, yes. Elena stood, moving to stand beside him at the window. Below, the city sprawled in all directions, millions of people living their lives, unaware of the wars being fought in the shadows. I'm not leaving, she said. Vincent turned to look at her. You should think about I don't need to think about it. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You've saved my brother. You've been ... double quotes. She hesitated, searching for the right word. Kind. In a world that's been anything but. I'm not running just because things are getting hard. This isn't hard, Elena. This is deadly. I grew up on the streets. I survived things that should have killed me. I'm still here. She met his eyes. I'm not fragile. And I'm not running. Rossi made a sound that might have been approval. Vincent studied her for a long moment, something unreadable in his expression. Then he turned to Rossi. Double her security detail. Make sure she's never alone in public. And I want reports, every 6 hours, on her brother's location and status. Already in motion, Rossi confirmed. Vincent looked back at Elena. You're sure about this? I'm sure. He nodded slowly. Then we have work to do. Sal needs medical attention, proper attention, not the patch job he got at the docks. Elena, I need you to coordinate with Dr. Reeves, discreetly. Sal never goes to a regular hospital. Understood. Rossi, call a meeting. All senior members. Tomorrow night. We need to decide how we're responding to this. As they moved into action, Elena felt the weight of her choice settle over her shoulders. She'd chosen to stay in the shadows. And shadows had teeth. The next day, Friday, 2:17 p.m., Elena was at her desk outside Vincent's office when the woman arrived. She was mid-50s, elegant in the way that required generations of breeding and money. Her dark hair was pulled into a chignon, her black dress was Chanel, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her life. Claire appeared from her office, her usual professional mask slipping for just a moment into something like apprehension. Mrs. Dante, we weren't expecting you. Clearly. The woman's voice was cultured, with just a hint of an Italian accent. Is my son available? Mrs. Dante, Vincent's mother. He's in a meeting, Elena said, standing. But I can let him know you are. The question wasn't rude, but it was pointed. Elena Ricci, Mr. Dante's personal assistant, Mrs. Dante's dark eyes, so like. Vincent swept over Elena with the efficiency of someone trained to assess threats and weaknesses in seconds. How long have you been working for my son? 3 weeks. Interesting. He usually mentions new hires. Mrs. Dante moved closer, and Elena caught the scent of expensive perfume. Where are you from, Elena? New York, the Bronx, and, before working here? Elena felt the trap closing, but couldn't see how to avoid it. I worked in food service and cleaning, and my son hired you for an executive position. Mrs. Dante's tone suggested this was unlikely at best. The door to Vincent's office opened. Mother. Vincent's voice was calm, but Elena heard the edge underneath. This is a surprise. I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by. Mrs. Dante turned to her son, and her expression softened slightly. You've been avoiding family dinners. I've been busy. Too busy for family? It wasn't really a question. Vincent gestured toward his office. Come in. We'll talk privately. Mrs. Dante swept past him, then paused at the threshold to look back at Elena. Nice to meet you, dear. The words were perfectly polite. The tone suggested Elena had been weighed and found wanting. When the door closed, Claire let out a breath. Well, that was Isabella Dante. And you just survived your first encounter. She doesn't like me. She doesn't know you. But she's protective of Vincent. Especially after ... Double quotes. Claire caught herself. Never mind. After what? Claire hesitated, clearly weighing what to say. 5 years ago. Once. 5 years ago. The woman Maria was from another prominent family. It was supposed to be a strategic alliance. What happened? She cheated on him. with someone from a rival family. It was a calculated betrayal, personal and professional. Vincent called off the wedding. Maria's family took it as an insult. Things got messy. Elena thought about the coldness she'd seen in Vincent's eyes sometimes, the careful distance he maintained. He doesn't trust easily, Claire continued, and his mother is even more protective now. So don't take her coldness personally. She'd be suspicious of anyone new in his life. I'm just his assistant. Claire gave her a knowing look. Are you? Before Elena could respond, the door opened and Mrs. Dante emerged, her expression carefully neutral. Vincent followed. Elena, clear my schedule for Sunday evening. I'll be at my mother's for dinner, of course. Mrs. Dante paused. You should bring your new assistant, Vincent. Let the family meet her. That's not necessary. I insist. If she's so important to your daily operations, we should know who she is. Mrs. Dante smiled, a sharp political smile. Besides, it's just dinner. What could go wrong? Vincent's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Fine. Elena, you'll accompany me Sunday at 7. When Mrs. Dante left, sweeping out with the same elegant authority she'd arrived with, Vincent turned to Elena. I'm sorry about that. It's fine. It's not. My mother is ... Quotes. He searched for words. Complicated. Family is everything to her. She takes her role as matriarch seriously. She thinks I'm a threat. Vincent's expression was unreadable. She thinks anyone new is a potential threat. It's how she's kept the family safe for 40 years. And am I a threat? Are you asking if I trust you? I'm asking why you really hired me. Vincent leaned against Elena's desk, arms crossed. I told you why. Loyalty, strength, survival instinct. That's not the whole truth. He studied her for a long moment. No, it's not. Elena waited. I hired you because when you walked into my office that night, terrified and desperate and lying through your teeth, you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What? That not everyone in this world is playing games. Some people are just trying to survive. And those people, the real ones, the ones who haven't learned to hide behind masks and strategies, they're rare. He stood. You were real, Elena, and I wanted that in my life. The admission hung between them like smoke. I'm still real, she said softly. I know. That's why my mother is concerned. Vincent moved toward his office. Sunday dinner is going to be a test. She'll ask you questions, pointed questions, about your past, your intentions, your weaknesses. It's what she does. Should I be worried? Only if you plan to lie. My mother has a better bullshit detector than any interrogator I've ever met. She know. Then I'll tell her the truth. That might be worse, Vincent said, with something that almost resembled humor. But it's your choice. Just be prepared. As he closed his office door, Elena sat back down at her desk, her mind racing. She'd thought getting hired was the hard part, but that had just been the beginning. Now she had to prove she belonged. Sunday evening, 6:47 p.m. The Dante family estate was in Westchester, sprawling. Property that had belonged to Vincent's grandfather and his grandfather before him. The main house was Mediterranean-style architecture with modern updates, set back from the road behind gates that required security clearance to pass. Thomas drove them in one of Vincent's personal cars, a black Mercedes that whispered power rather than shouted it. Elena wore the most expensive dress she'd ever owned, a simple navy blue sheath that Claire had helped her pick out yesterday during an emergency shopping trip. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun, minimal makeup, small pearl earrings that had been her mother's before she died. She looked professional, appropriate. She felt like an imposter. You're quiet, Vincent observed. He wore a charcoal suit, slightly more casual than his work attire, but still unmistakably expensive. Nervous, don't be. It's just family. Your family runs organized crime in New York. That's not just family. Vincent almost smiled. Fair point. But they're also Italian Catholics who care deeply about tradition, respect, and good food. Focus on that. The car pulled up to the house. Warm lights spilled from the windows, and Elena could hear music and voices inside. Vincent came round to open her door, a gesture that surprised her. "Remember," he said quietly, "you're here because I want you here. That matters." They walked up the stone steps together. The door opened before they reached it. A young woman, in early 20s, beautiful in an effortless way, threw her arms around Vincent. "Vinny, finally. Mama said you were bringing someone and we've been dying to meet her. Elena, this is my sister, Gianna." "Gianna." "Elena Ricky." Gianna turned her megawatt smile on Elena. "Oh my God, you're gorgeous. Come in, come in. Everyone's in the dining room already. Mama's been cooking all day." The inside of the house was warm, lived in, despite its grandeur. Family photos covered the walls, generations of Dantes, from sepia-toned portraits to modern digital prints. The air smelled like garlic, tomato sauce, and fresh bread. They entered the dining room. It was huge, a table that could seat 20, though tonight only about 12 places were set. The family was already gathered, Mrs. Dante at the head of the table, various aunts, uncles, cousins, and what looked like a grandmother in her 80s, holding court from a chair by the window. The conversation stopped when Vincent and Elena entered. "Everyone," Vincent said, his hand lightly touching Elena's lower back, a gesture of support and claim. "This is Elena Ricci. She works with me." A chorus of greetings, some in English, some in Italian. Mrs. Dante rose, moving with grace, despite her age. "Elena, welcome. Please, sit. Vincenzo, you sit beside her." The seating arrangement was clearly strategic and next to Vincent, but surrounded by family members who could observe and assess. Dinner was served family-style platters of pasta, chicken, roasted vegetables, bread still warm from the oven. Wine flowed freely. Conversation ebbed and flowed in that comfortable chaos of large families where multiple conversations happened simultaneously. Elena mostly listened, answering questions when asked but trying not to draw too much attention. Until Vincent Zukla, man in his 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes, addressed her directly. "So, Elena, Vincent tells us you've been working for him for almost a month now. What did you do before?" The table quieted slightly. "I worked in food service," Elena said, meeting his gaze. "And I cleaned office buildings at night. And now you're an executive assistant." The Uncle Marco had introduced him as Uncle Sal raised an eyebrow. "That's quite a leap." "I suppose it is. What makes you qualified?" Vincent started to intervene, but Elena touched his arm gently. She could fight her own battles. "I'm qualified because I understand what it means to work hard, to be loyal, to protect the things that matter." She paused. "And because your nephew gave me a chance when no one else would. Why did you need a chance?" This from one of the aunts, Tante Rosa. Vincent had said, "What happened in your past?" "Rosa," Mrs. Dante began. "No, it's okay," Elena said. She'd known this was coming. Might as well get it over with. "I made mistakes. I struggled with addiction. I have a criminal record, minor offenses from when I was younger. I'm not proud of my past, but I'm not hiding from it either." The silence was deafening. Then Vincent's grandmother, Nonna Lucia, spoke for the first time, her voice accented but clear. "You are clean now." "Yes, ma'am. 8 months. And your family?" "I have a younger brother. He's sick." Vincent's insurance is paying for his treatment. Nonna Lucia nodded slowly. So you're loyal because of money? No, ma'am. Elena met the old woman's eyes. I'm loyal because Vincent saw past my mistakes to who I really am. Because he treated me with dignity when the world treated me like trash. Money can't buy that kind of loyalty. The old woman studied her for what felt like hours. Then she smiled, a real smile, warm and unexpected. Good answer, child. Vincenzo, you chose well. The tension in the room eased slightly. Uncle Sal, however, wasn't done. In our family, loyalty means something specific. It means keeping secrets. It means putting the family above everything else. Can you do that? Yes. Even if it costs you? Elena thought about Marco, about the choices she'd already made. I've already paid costs most people can't imagine. I know what loyalty requires, and if Vincent asks you to do something difficult, something that conflicts with your morals, Uncle, Vincent's voice held warning. It's a fair question, Elena said. She looked at Vincent, then back at his uncle. Vincent has never asked me to do anything illegal or immoral. He's kept me separate from that part of his life. But if he ever did ask, ... She chose her words carefully. I would trust that he had good reasons, and I would trust him to protect me when I did it. Mrs. Dante leaned forward. You love him. It wasn't a question. Elena's breath caught. I respect him. I'm loyal to him. That's not what I asked. Vincent's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. Elena looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd given her a chance, who'd saved her brother, who'd shown her kindness in a cruel world. I don't know, she said honestly, looking back at Mrs. Dante. I know he matters to me. I know I'd protect him. But love? That's a complicated question. In this family, love is always complicated, Mrs. Dante said. But it's also everything. We survive because we love each other more than we love ourselves. Can you love like that, Elena? I love my brother like that, and could you love my son like that? The room held its breath. I think... But Elena swallowed hard. I think I could, if he let me. Mrs. Dante sat back, something like satisfaction in her eyes. Good. Then you have my blessing. Gianna clapped her hands together. Thank God. I thought this dinner was going to be super awkward. The table erupted in laughter, and the tension finally broke. The rest of the evening passed in warmth. Elena found herself actually enjoying the chaos of the Dante family. The arguments over recipes, the teasing between siblings, the stories about Vincent as a child that made him roll his eyes but smile. As they were leaving, Nonna Lucia pulled Elena aside. You are good for him, the old woman said, squeezing Elena's hands with surprising strength. He has forgotten how to be soft. You remind him. I'm not sure soft is a compliment in your world, Nonna. In my world, soft means human, and we need more human, less monster. She patted Elena's cheek. You'll keep him human, yes? I'll try. In the car on the way back, Elena leaned her head against Vincent's shoulder, exhausted. That was terrifying. You did well. Better than well. My family likes you. Your mother interrogated me like a suspect. That means she's taking you. Seriously. Vincent's arm came round her shoulders. If she thought you were temporary, she wouldn't have bothered. Am I? Temporary? Vincent was quiet for a moment. I don't know. But I hope not. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of him beside her. Me too. They drove through the night, leaving the family estate behind. But both of them knew, whether they admitted it or not, that something had shifted between them. Something neither of them could take back. 2 days later, Tuesday, 11:23 p.m., the call came while Elena was brushing her teeth. Vincent Dante. Mobile, hello? Elena. Vincent's voice was controlled but urgent. I need you at the Crimson Lounge, immediately. Her heart sank. She'd heard that tone before. What happened? It's Sal. He's been hit. It's bad. Galena arrived at the Crimson Lounge in 14 minutes. Thomas had been waiting downstairs, engine already running, his face grim in the rearview mirror as they sped through the empty streets of Lower Manhattan. The club's back entrance was chaos. 3 SUVs were parked haphazardly, doors still open. Men in dark suits moved with controlled urgency, some carrying equipment Elena couldn't identify, others speaking rapid-fire into phones. Blood trailed across the concrete from the service entrance into the building. Marco Rossi met her at the door. He's in the back office. Jock Reeves is with him now. How bad? Bad enough. Rossi's jaw was tight. They ambushed him leaving his apartment, shot him twice, shoulder and abdomen. If his driver hadn't returned fire, Sal would be dead. Elena's stomach churned. She'd coordinated Sal's medical care just 2 weeks ago. Had joked with him about his terrible taste in coffee. He'd shown her pictures of his kids, 2 daughters both in middle school. Where's Vincent? With him. Come on. They moved through the club's darkened interior. Elena had been here several times now, but never like this, never with the lights harsh and clinical. Never with the smell of antiseptic and blood cutting through the usual scent of leather and expensive alcohol. The back office had been converted into a makeshift operating room. Medical equipment lined the walls, some of it looking suspiciously hospital-grade. Dr. Reeves, a severe woman in her 50s who asked no questions and kept no records, worked with focused intensity over Sal's prone form. Vincent stood against the wall, his shirt sleeves rolled up, blood on his hands and forearms. His face was a mask, cold, controlled, deadly. But Elena saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw worked, the barely contained rage in his eyes. Status, he said to Dr. Reeves, without looking away from Sal. Stable, for now. The shoulder wound was clean through and through, but the abdominal shot nicked his intestine. I've repaired what I can, but he needs a hospital. A real hospital. No hospitals. Vincent, no. Hospitals mean questions. Questions mean police. I'll get you whatever equipment you need. Bring in specialists if necessary. But Sal doesn't leave this building until it's safe, Doctor. Reeves's mouth tightened, but she nodded. She knew better than to argue. Vincent finally turned, his gaze landing on Elena. Something in his expression softened infinitesimally. You came. You called. He moved toward her, and Elena realized he looked exhausted. Not just physically, though there were dark circles under his eyes and tension in every line of his body, but emotionally, like something inside him was fraying. I need you to coordinate with Reeves. Get her whatever she needs, equipment, medication, additional medical staff, discreetly of course, and I need you to call Sal's wife. Tell her there was an incident at one of our warehouses, industrial accident. He's being treated privately, and he'll be home as soon as possible. Elena's throat tightened. You want me to lie to her? I want you to keep her from panicking and asking questions that could put her in danger. Vincent's voice was gentle but firm. The Costellos targeted Sal because he's close to me. If they know his family's worried, they might target them next. The reality of it hit her like cold water. This wasn't theoretical anymore. These were real people. Sal's wife, his daughters, who could become casualties in a war they didn't even know they were part of. I'll call her, Elena said quietly. Vincent nodded, then turned back to Rossi. Gather everyone. Leadership only. 1 hour. We're responding to this. What kind of response? Vincent's expression went cold. The kind that sends a message. 1 hour later, 1:34 a.m. The meeting room on the third floor of the Crimson Lounge looked like something from a different era. Dark wood paneling, a long table surrounded by leather chairs. Oil paintings of Italian landscapes that probably cost more than most people's homes. 12 men sat around the table, Vincent's inner circle. Elena recognized some of them. Rossi, obviously. Tony from security. A few others she'd seen at the office or during family dinner. Elena sat in the corner with her laptop, taking notes. Vincent had insisted she be present. "You're part of this now," he'd said. "You need to understand how decisions are made." She wasn't sure if it was trust or a test. Vincent stood at the head of the table, hands flat on the surface, his presence commanding, despite his disheveled appearance. "The Costellos have drawn first blood. Again." His voice was ice. "They hit Marcus at the docks. Now they've nearly killed Sal. They're sending a message. They think we're weak. They think we won't retaliate. So we hit them back," said one of the men, Carmen, Vincent's cousin. "Hard. Make them remember why they fear the Dante name, and start an all-out war," Rossi countered. "That benefits no one. We lose soldiers, they lose soldiers, and the other families start picking at the corpses. So what do you suggest? We just take it? I suggest we be strategic." Rossi looked at Vincent. "We know who ordered the hit. Lucia Costello. She's trying to prove she's strong enough to lead after her husband's death. She's using us to consolidate power." Vincent nodded slowly. "Which means direct retaliation plays into her hands. She wants us to look aggressive. Wants the other families to see us as the aggressors. Then what do?" Tony asked. Vincent was quiet for a long moment, his mind clearly working through scenarios. Then he looked up, and Elena saw something calculating in his expression. "We cut off her resources. The Costellos run most of their money through 3 channels. Their import business at the port, their casino operation in Atlantic City, and their sports betting network. We can't touch the port without triggering a union war. The casino is too visible, but the betting network," Rossi said, understanding dawning. "It's spread out. Small operations, hard to protect." "Exactly. We systematically dismantle every bookmaking operation they run in the city. We don't hurt anyone, we just shut them down. Cost them money, lots of money." Carmine frowned. "That's not exactly sending a strong message." "Yes, it is. It says we're smarter than they are. It says we can hurt them without firing a shot. And it puts pressure on Lucia from her own people. If she can't protect their revenue, they'll start questioning her leadership." The room considered this. "What about collateral damage?" Tony asked. "Some of those operations are run by people who aren't really soldiers. Just guys trying to make money. We give them a choice," Vincent said. "They can work for us or find another line of work. But just the Costello betting network ends." All of it, one by one, the men around the table, nodded their agreement. Vincent turned to Rossi. "Coordinate with our people. I want a list of every Costello operation in the city by morning. We move systematically, 1 per day. Clean, quiet. No violence unless absolutely necessary, understood, and double security on all our people. I want protection on everyone's families. If the Costellos escalate to targeting civilians, I want to be ready." The meeting continued for another hour. Logistics, contingencies, assignments. Elena took notes mechanically, her mind struggling to process what she was witnessing. This was how wars were planned, calmly, rationally, with the same attention to detail that most people apply to business meetings. It was terrifying in its normalcy. When everyone finally dispersed, Elena remained in her corner, finishing her notes. Vincent stood at the window, looking out at the city, as dawn began to paint the sky in shades of gray and pink. "You're quiet," he said without turning, processing second thoughts. Elena closed her laptop and stood, moving to join him at the window. No, just understanding. Really understanding what your world looks like. And it's colder than I expected. More calculated. Vincent finally looked at her. Did you think it would be passionate? Hot-blooded vendettas and dramatic confrontations? Maybe that's how people get killed or arrested. He turned fully to face her. In this world, the people who survive are the ones who can separate emotion from strategy, who can make hard choices without hesitation. Is that how you see yourself? Emotionless? Something flickered in Vincent's eyes. I used to, before you. The admission hung between them. Vincent, He reached out, his hand cupping her face with that same gentle contrast to his usual controlled demeanor. You make me feel things I'd forgotten how to feel. Hope. Softness. The desire to be more than what this life made me. Elena's breath caught. Is that a good thing? I don't know. It's dangerous. Feeling too much in this world gets you killed. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I can't seem to stop. Elena covered his hand with hers. Then don't stop. Elena, if something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. You can't know that. This war with the Costellos could escalate, could get ugly. And I need to know that if something does happen, you'll be taken care of. I don't want to talk about this. We have to. Vincent pulled her closer. I've set up a trust. If anything happens to me, you and Marco are covered. The apartment, his medical care, enough money to start over somewhere safe. Tears burned behind Elena's eyes. Stop, please. Promise me you'll use it. That you'll take Marco and leave the city. Start a real life somewhere. I can't promise that. Why not? Because my life is here now. With you. The truth of it terrified her, but she couldn't deny it anymore. I don't want to start over somewhere else. I want this. I want you. Vincent pulled her into his arms, holding her with an intensity that spoke of desperation and need. You deserve so much better than this. Than me. Elena pulled back just enough to look at him. I'm so tired of people telling me what I deserve. I deserve what I choose. And I choose you, even knowing what I am, what I've done. I know what you are. A man trying to protect his family. A man who showed me kindness when he didn't have to. A man who's carrying the weight of an empire he never asked for. She touched his face. I know all of that, and I'm still here. Vincent kissed her then, not gentle, not controlled, but with all the emotion he usually kept locked away. It was desperate and fierce and real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. Good, Elena whispered. I don't want normal. I want real. And you're the most real thing in my life. You're going to get hurt. This life, this world, it destroys beautiful things. Then we'll put each other back together. She took his hand, lacing their fingers. That's what loyalty means, right? Being there when it's hard, when it's broken, when it's impossible. Vincent closed his eyes, and for a moment he looked younger, vulnerable in a way Elena had never seen. I love you, he said quietly. I tried not to. Tried to keep distance. But I love you, Elena. The words hit her like a physical force. I love you too, she said, and it was terrifying and exhilarating and true. They stood there as the sun rose over New York, two people who'd found something unexpected in the darkest places, and neither of them knew if it would be enough to survive what was coming. 1 week later, Thursday, 3:47 p.m., Vincent's strategy was working. Over 7 days, 6 Costello betting operations had been systematically shut down. No violence, no police involvement. just calm, efficient dismantling of their revenue streams. The Costellos were bleeding money. Elena had monitored the fallout from her desk, tracking news reports, coordinating with Vincent's people, watching as frustration built in the Costello organization. Sal was recovering slowly, still weak but stable. His wife thought he'd been in an industrial accident and would be home soon. The lie sat heavy on Elena's conscience, but she understood why it was necessary. Marco was getting better too. His latest blood work showed significant improvement. The doctors were cautiously optimistic that he might achieve remission. Everything was moving in the right direction, which was why Elena should have known it wouldn't last. She was walking back from a coffee run. Vincent had a meeting with potential investors for a new restaurant. Needed to look legitimate and corporate when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, following her for the last 3 blocks. Her heart rate spiked, but she kept walking. Didn't run. Didn't look back more than normal. Vincent's security training had been thorough. If you think you're being followed, don't panic. Move toward public spaces. Call for help. Don't try to be a hero. Elena pulled out her phone, speed dialing Vincent's direct line while heading toward the busier intersection ahead. The call went to voicemail. She tried Rossi. Voicemail. The car was getting closer. Elena's breath came faster. She was 2 blocks from Vincent's building. So close. But the car was right behind her now, pulling up to the curb. The back door opened. "Get in, Miss Rixey." The voice was female, cultured, familiar. Elena turned and saw Lucia Costello, sitting in the back seat, dressed in designer black. Her expression neutral. "I'm not getting in your car. Then I'll have my men collect you. And it will look much more dramatic. Is that what you want? A scene in the middle of Midtown?" Elena glanced around. People everywhere, but none of them would help. This was New York. People minded their own business. "What do you want?" "To talk. That's all. I give you my word, no harm will come to you. You have 30 minutes of my time. Then my driver will take you anywhere you want to go. Your word means nothing to me." Lucia smiled slightly. "Fair. But consider, if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. I want to talk, that's all." Every instinct screamed at Elena to run. But she thought of Vincent's strategy, of the information she might gain, of the fact that Lucia was right. If they wanted her dead, she wouldn't have seen them coming. She got in the car. They drove in silence for several blocks before Lucia spoke. "You've been busy. You and Vincent. I don't know what you mean. Don't insult me with denials. 6 of my betting operations shut down in a week. That's Vincent's work. And his new assistant coordinating all the logistics. That's you." Elena kept her expression neutral. "I coordinate meetings. I don't know anything about betting operations. You're loyal. I respect that." Lucia turned to face her fully. "But loyalty to the wrong person will get you killed. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Vincent is smart, calculated. He's dismantling my operations without firing a shot. Very clever." Lucia's eyes hardened. "But he's forgotten something important. I don't play by his rules." "What does that mean?" "It means that while he's been systematically attacking my revenue streams, I've been doing my homework. On you. On your brother. On everyone Vincent cares about." Terror shot through Elena's chest. "If you touch Marco, I won't touch your brother," Lucia said calmly. "That would be cruel. And contrary to what Vincent probably tells you, I'm not a monster. But I needed you to understand something." "What?" "Vincent can't protect you. Not really. He can put guards on you, move you to a secure building, monitor your every move. But the moment you've stepped into his world, you became vulnerable. And that vulnerability is a weapon I can use against him. So this is about making him feel powerless. This is about making him understand that he can't win. Lucia leaned forward. I don't want this war. I never did. But Vincent won't negotiate, won't compromise. He thinks he can slowly strangle my operations, and I'll just accept it. What do you want? I want peace. Real peace. Territory lines redrawn. Fair distribution of revenue streams. And I want Vincent to understand that he's not untouchable just because he's trying to go legitimate. Elena studied the older woman. She looked tired beneath the makeup and expensive clothes. Tired and frustrated, and maybe even a little afraid. Why are you telling me this? Because Vincent won't listen to me. But he might listen to you. Lucia sat back. You have influence over him. Everyone sees it. His family, his men, even his enemies. Vincent Dante, the man who never let anyone close, has fallen in love with a girl from the Bronx with a criminal record and a dying brother, Marcos. Not dying because Vincent is paying for his treatment, which means Vincent has leverage over you. Has he mentioned that? Elena's stomach churned. It's not leverage, it's love. Lucia's smile was sad. Maybe, but love and leverage look very similar in our world. Vincent is a good man, as far as men in this business go. But he's still a man in this business. He'll use every tool available to win. He's not using me, isn't he? He hired you knowing you were desperate. He made himself indispensable to your brother's survival. He brought you into his world, made you complicit in his operations, tied you so thoroughly to his life that leaving would destroy everything you've built. And now here you are in love with him, loyal to him, willing to risk your life for him. Tell me, who benefited more from that arrangement? The words hit like knives, because they contained a truth Elena had been avoiding. She'd been so grateful, so overwhelmed by Vincent's kindness, that she'd never stopped to question his motives. Never wondered if his generosity came with invisible strings. I see I've given you something to think about, Lucia said. Good. Think about it. And then convince Vincent to meet with me. Really, meet no intermediaries, no posturing. Just two people trying to end a war before more people get hurt. The car pulled to a stop outside Vincent's building. You have 24 hours, Lucia said. After that, I stop playing nice. And trust me, Miss Reacher, you don't want to see me when I'm not playing nice. Elena got out without another word. As the car drove away, she stood on the sidewalk, her mind racing and her heart pounding. Everything Lucia said could be manipulation. Psychological warfare, designed to create doubt and division. But what if it wasn't? What if some part of it was true? That evening, 8:23 p.m., Elena didn't tell Vincent about the meeting with Lucia. She knew she should. Knew that keeping secrets was a betrayal of the trust they'd built. But Lucia's words kept echoing in her head. Love and leverage looked very similar in our world. Was that what this was? Had Vincent been manipulating her from the beginning? She wanted to believe it wasn't true. Wanted to trust that his feelings were genuine. But doubt, once planted, was hard to uproot. She was at Vincent's penthouse. She'd been staying there more often lately. Partly for security, partly because neither of them seemed to want to be apart. When he came home from a late meeting, he looked exhausted. The war with the Costellos was taking its toll. Hey, he kissed her forehead, a gesture that had become natural between them. You're quiet tonight, long day. Vincent studied her face with that unsettling perceptiveness he had. What's wrong? Nothing. Just tired? Elena. He took her hands. Don't lie to me. What happened? She should tell him. Should explain about Lucia's ambush, her warnings, her offer to negotiate. But instead, what came out was, why did you really hire me? Vincent's expression shifted, confusion mixed with wariness. What, that first night? You could have just given me money. Could have paid for Marco's treatment and sent me away. But you didn't. You brought me into your world, made me part of your operation. Why? I told you why. I needed someone loyal, someone I could trust. But why me specifically? Out of all the desperate people in New York, why did you choose me? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Where is this coming from? Just answer the question. He released her hands, moving to pour himself a drink. When he spoke, his voice was measured. I chose you because I saw something in you that reminded me of myself. Someone caught between worlds, not bad enough for the streets, not good enough for anything else. Someone trying to save the one thing they loved while the world worked against them. That's not a reason to hire someone. It is if you're looking for someone who understands what it means to make impossible choices. Vincent turned to face her. You want the truth? The real truth? Yes, I hired you because I was tired. Tired of being surrounded by people who only saw me as Vincent Dante, head of the family. Tired of playing roles and maintaining masks. And when you walked into my office that night, terrified and desperate and lying badly, you were the first real thing I'd encountered in years. So yes, I brought you into my world. And yes, part of it was strategic. But mostly, he set down his glass. Mostly, it was selfish. I wanted something real in my life. And you were it. Alina felt tears burning. How do I know you're not manipulating me? Using my desperation and my brother's illness to control me. Pain flashed across Vincent's face. Is that what you think I'm doing? I don't know what to think anymore. Who have you been talking to? His voice hardened. Because this doesn't sound like you. This sounds like someone planted doubts. Elena wanted to deny it. Wanted to protect Lucia's confidences, even as they poisoned her relationship. But she'd promised no more lies. Lucia Costello approached me today. She gave me a message for you. She wants to negotiate. Really negotiate. End this war before more people get hurt. Vincent's expression went cold. She approached you. Where? When? On the street. She had her men pick me up. We talked in her car. She kidnapped you. She didn't. She had her men force you into a vehicle. That's kidnapping. Vincent was already moving, grabbing his phone. Rossi, I need a full security sweep. Elena was approached by Lucia Costello today. I want to know how they got that close without our people seeing it. Vincent, stop. He held up a hand, listening to Rossi's response. Then, I don't care what it takes. Find the gap in our coverage and fix it. And I want protection doubled on Alina and her brother, now. He hung up, his jaw tight, with barely controlled rage. What did she say to you? She said you can't protect me. That I'm vulnerable. That you've made me dependent on you. And now you're using that dependence as leverage. Vincent closed his eyes. And you believed her. I don't know what to believe. 3 months ago, I was nobody. I was cleaning toilets and watching my brother die. Now I'm living in a penthouse, in love with a man who runs organized crime, caught in a war I don't understand. So yes, when someone tells me I might be a pawn in a game I can't see, I listen. You think you're a pawn. I think I don't know what I am anymore. Vincent moved toward her, and Elena saw something raw in his expression. Hurt and anger and desperation all mixed together. You want to know what you are. You're the person I wake up thinking about. You're the reason I'm trying to legitimize my operations, because I want a life I don't have to hide from you. You're the first person who's made me believe I could be something more than what my father's legacy demanded. His voice cracked slightly. You're not a pawn, Elena. You're the only thing in my life that's not part of the game. Then why does it feel like I'm drowning? Like I can't tell what's real and what's strategy? Because you're scared. And when you're scared, you look for reasons to run. It's what you've always done. You've read your file, remember? Foster homes, relationships, jobs. When things get hard, you run. The accusation hit home. That's not fair. It's true. And I get it. Running kept you alive. But you can't run from this. From us. Because if you run now, Lucia wins. She's trying to divide us. To make you doubt me so you'll leave or become a weakness she can exploit. Eleanor's hands were shaking. How do I know you're not doing the same thing? Using me. Vincent took her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. Because if I was using you, I wouldn't be standing here begging you to trust me. I would have cut my losses the moment you started asking questions. I wouldn't care if you believed Lucia's poison. I wouldn't feel like my chest is being torn apart watching you doubt everything we've built. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. I'm so scared. I know. He pulled her close. I know, and you should be. This world is terrifying. It destroys people. But I swear to you, on my family, on my life, on everything I have, I'm not using you. I love you. Really, genuinely, selfishly love you. And if you want to walk away, I'll let you go. I'll make sure you and Marco are taken care of. But please, don't walk away because you think I'm manipulating you. Walk away because you don't love me back. That I can accept. Elena clung to him, crying into his chest. I do love you. That's why I'm so scared. Because losing you would destroy me. Then don't lose me. Stay. Fight with me. Help me end this war so we can have a real life together. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Lucia wants to meet. She said you won't negotiate, because she started this. She can't demand peace after drawing blood, but she's offering it. Doesn't that count for something? Vincent was quiet, clearly wrestling with pride and pragmatism. Finally, if I meet with her, it looks like weakness. The other families will see it as capitulation, and if you don't, more people like Sal get hurt, maybe killed. Elena took his hands. You told me once that the people who survive in your world are the ones who can separate emotion from strategy. So separate them. What's the strategic move? Vincent closed his eyes, and Elena could see the war happening behind them, between the man who'd been raised to never show weakness and the man who wanted to protect the people he loved. The strategic move is to meet. Hear what she's offering. See if we can end this without more bloodshed. He opened his eyes. But I need you there. Why? Because Lucia was right about one thing. You have influence over me. And if we are walking into a negotiation, I need someone there who can remind me what we're fighting for. Someone who can tell me when I'm being too rigid or too proud. Can you do that? Elena nodded. When? I'll reach out to her tomorrow. Set up a meeting on neutral ground. We'll bring Rossi and a security detail, but we'll hear what she has to say, and if it's a trap. Vincent smiled grimly. Then we'll deal with it. Together. 2 days later, Saturday, 7 p.m. The meeting was set at a restaurant in neutral territory, Chinatown, controlled by the Wong family, who had no stake in the Dante Costello conflict, but enough power to guarantee safety. Vincent, Elena, and Rossi arrived in one vehicle. Lucia Costello came with her own security detail, her underboss, and 3 armed guards. The restaurant had been cleared for the evening. Only the owner remained, serving tea and then disappearing into the back. They sat at a round table. Symbolic, Elena realized. No head, no power position. Lucia looked tired, but determined. Thank you for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries, Vincent said. You wanted to talk. Talk. Lucia set a folder on the table. This is my proposal. We maintain current territorial boundaries, with 3 exceptions. You cede control of the dockyard operations in Red Hook. I cede control of the betting network in Midtown. And we split revenue from the Atlantic Avenue development project 50-50. Vincent studied the folder without touching it. And what do I get in return? Peace. No more attacks, no more bloodshed. And my support when you present your legitimization plans to the other families. That got Vincent's attention. You'd support me going legitimate. I'd be grateful for it. You going legitimate means one less competitor in the traditional operations. It creates opportunities for me to expand without conflict. Lucia leaned forward. I'm not your enemy, Vincent. I'm a businesswoman trying to protect my interests. Your father understood that. I'd hoped you would too. My father also understood that showing weakness gets you killed. Is peace weakness? Or is it wisdom? Vincent was quiet, his fingers drumming on the table, a rare tell of his internal calculation. Elena put her hand over his, stilling the motion. He looked at her, and she saw the question in his eyes. What do you think? She leaned close, speaking quietly. What would your father do? Fight, never surrender ground. And where did that get him? Vincent's jaw tightened. His father had been killed in a power struggle, murdered by someone he'd refused to negotiate with, someone he'd seen as weak. My father's dead because he couldn't adapt, Vincent said finally, because he saw compromise as surrender. So don't be your father, Elena whispered. Be better. Vincent looked at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Then he turned back to Lucia. I'll agree to your terms with two conditions. First, you publicly acknowledge that the recent attacks on my people were unauthorized by you. You pin them on rogue elements in your organization that you've dealt with. Lucia nodded slowly. I can do that. Second, you help me identify who fed you information about Elena. Someone in my organization talked. I want to know who. Lucia hesitated. That would be breaking confidence with my source. That's the price of peace. Lucia studied him, then sighed. It wasn't someone in your organization. It was someone who does business with both of us. A supplier who thought giving me information would curry favor. Name, Dmitry Volkov. The man who sold Elena her fake ID. Elena's blood went cold. Vincent's expression went deadly. The printer in Brighton Beach. He has ears everywhere. Sells information to the highest bidder. I didn't ask him to target Elena specifically. He volunteered the information. Thought it was valuable. It was. To you. Vincent stood. We have a deal, Lucia. I'll have my lawyers draw up the formal agreements. But understand, if anyone in your organization violates these terms, peace is over. Permanently. Lucia stood as well, offering her hand. Understood. And Vincent? For what it's worth, I'm glad you listened to her. Your father never would have. My father didn't have her. They shook hands, a truce sealed not in blood, but in pragmatism. Later that night, Vincent's penthouse Elena sat on the balcony, looking out at the city lights, trying to process everything that had happened. The war was over. Peace had been negotiated. Marco was getting better. Everything should feel perfect. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally changed. Vincent joined her, 2 glasses of wine in hand. You're thinking too loud, just processing. You saved lives tonight. You know that, right? If you hadn't convinced me to meet with Lucia, this would have escalated. More people would have been hurt or killed. I just reminded you of what you already knew. That's what you do. You see clearly when everything else is clouded by pride and strategy. He sat beside her. You make me better. Elena turned to face him. Earlier, when I doubted you, you had every right to doubt. Lucia played her cards well. She knew where to plant doubt. But I should have trusted you. Should have believed in what we have. Vincent took her hand. You're human. You got scared. I get it. But, Eleni, I need you to know something. Whatever happens, whatever this life throws at us, I'm yours. Completely. No games, no manipulation, just use. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. He pulled her close. You once said that loyalty means being there when it's broken, when it's impossible. I'm holding you to that. Elena rested her head on his shoulder. I'm not going anywhere. Good. Because I have plans for us. What kind of plans? Vincent smiled, a real smile, rare and beautiful. The kind that involved legitimate businesses, a normal life, maybe eventually getting out of this game entirely. You'd really do that? Leave the family business, for you? Yes. He kissed the top of her head. I've spent my whole life living up to my father's legacy, building what he started. But you make me want to build something new. Something that's ours. Elena closed her eyes, letting herself believe in the possibility of a future beyond the shadows. I sat there as the city breathed around them, millions of lives unfolding, millions of stories being written. And in that moment, Elena knew, whatever came next, they'd face it together. Two souls who'd found each other in the darkness. Two hearts learning to trust in the light. 3 months later, December winter came to New York like a whisper that turned into a roar. Elena stood at the window of Vincent's penthouse. Their penthouse. She'd started thinking of it, watching snow fall over the city. Fat, lazy flakes that transformed the brutal urban landscape into something almost magical. 3 months since the peace agreement with Lucia Costello. 3 months of relative calm. Well, as calm as life could be when you were in love with a man who still ran one of the most powerful crime families in New York. But things had changed. Vincent was keeping his promise, slowly, carefully, transitioning more of the family's operations into legitimate businesses. It was delicate work, like performing surgery while the patient was still awake. Too fast and you destabilized everything. Too slow and you lost momentum. Elena had become more than just his personal assistant. She was his confidant, his strategist, his anchor when the pressure of two worlds threatened to crush him. And she'd found her own role in his organization, not as a criminal, but as a bridge between the old world and the new. She helped coordinate the legitimate businesses, interfaced with lawyers and accountants, made sure the transition from shadow to light happened without too many casualties. Claire Morrison had become a mentor and friend. Rossi treated her like family. Even Vincent's mother had warmed to her, inviting her to weekly dinners, where Nonna Lucia taught her to make proper pasta and told stories about Vincent as a boy. Marco was in remission. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. He'd started talking about going back to school, about the future, about all the things he wanted to do with his second chance at life. Everything should have been perfect. But Elena had learned long ago that should was a dangerous word. The first sign of trouble came on a Thursday afternoon. Elena was at her desk in Dante Holdings' corporate office, reviewing contracts for a new restaurant venture, when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. She'd been getting spam calls lately. Probably someone who'd gotten her number from a leaked database, but something made her pick up. Hello? Miss Rexy. We need to meet. The voice was male, professional, with an edge that suggested law enforcement. Who is this? Agent Robert Churn, FBI. I'd like to discuss your relationship with Vincent Dante. Elena's blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Miss Ricky, this isn't a trap. We're not trying to build a case against you. But we have information that suggests you might be in danger, and we'd like to help. I'm not interested. 10 minutes. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks from your office, Caf Lucia. I'll be there for the next hour. If you don't show, I'll understand. But I hope you do. He hung up. Elena sat frozen, her mind racing. The FBI. They were watching Vincent, of course they were. He was the head of a major crime family. But they were also watching her. She should tell Vincent immediately, should run this up the chain. But something in Agent Chan's voice had sounded ... genuine, not threatening, almost concerned. Against every instinct Vincent had trained into her, Elena grabbed her coat. Caf Lucia was a small place tucked between a dry cleaner and a phone repair shop. The kind of place that survived on regulars and tourists who got lost looking for more famous establishments. Agent Chan was easy to spot, mid-40s, Asian American, dressed in a suit that screamed federal employee. He sat at a corner table with a coffee he clearly hadn't touched. Elena approached cautiously, every nerve on high alert. "Miss Rixey, thank you for coming." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Can I get you something? Just talk. What do you want?" Chun pulled out a tablet, turning it so she could see the screen. It showed surveillance photos. Vincent entering various buildings, meeting with people Elena recognized from the family. "We've been investigating the Dante organization for 3 years. Money laundering, racketeering, illegal gambling operations. The usual." Chun swiped to another photo, this one of Elena and Vincent, leaving his penthouse together. But recently, something changed. Vincent Dante started legitimizing his operations, moving money into legal businesses, distancing himself from the traditional family activities. "And that's a crime." "No, that's smart." Chung leaned forward. "But it makes other people nervous. People who benefit from the status quo. People who don't want to see Vincent Dante go straight." "What people?" "We believe there's a faction within the Dante organization planning to remove Vincent from power. A coup. And when that happens, anyone close to him becomes a liability." Elena's heart pounded. "You're lying. Trying to turn me against him. I'm trying to keep you alive." Kuhn's expression was earnest. "Look, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by pretending I don't know who you are and what your relationship with Vincent is. You're in deep, probably deeper than you ever intended to be. But you also have clean hands, we've checked. You're not involved in any criminal activities, so when this coup happens, and our intelligence suggests it's coming soon, you have options. We can offer you and your brother protection, new identities, a fresh start somewhere safe, in exchange for testifying against Vincent, in exchange for staying alive. What you do with that life is up to you." Elena stood. "I'm not betraying him. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to protect yourself." Chun handed her a card. "My number's on there. If things go sideways, if you find yourself in danger, call me. We'll get you out." Elena took the card, then walked out without another word. She didn't tell Vincent about the meeting. She told herself it was because she didn't want to worry him, because he had enough on his plate without adding paranoid FBI agents to the mix. But the truth was more complicated, because Agent Chun's warning had awakened something. Elena had been trying to ignore the creeping suspicion that the peace they'd built was temporary, that the life they were trying to create together was a fantasy that couldn't survive in the real world. She thought about the card in her pocket, about the option of walking away, starting over, and she hated herself for even considering it. 1 week later, Friday night, Vincent had a meeting at the Crimson Lounge with his senior people about the Q4 financials for their legitimate holdings. Elena was invited, but not required. She'd stayed home, planning to catch up on some reading and maybe call Marco, who was spending the weekend with a friend from his hospital support group. But around 9 p.m., her phone buzzed with a text from Rossi. "Come to the club, now, something's wrong." Elena didn't hesitate. She grabbed her coat and was in a car within minutes. The Crimson Lounge looked normal from outside. Valets, a few well-dressed patrons, entering for the evening's entertainment. But Rossi met her at the back entrance, his expression grave. "What's happening?" Elena asked. "We found a bug in Vincent's private office." Her stomach dropped. "A bug? Like surveillance, high-end stuff, military grade?" "Someone's been listening to every conversation Vincent's had in that room for at least a month." "Who?" "That's what we're trying to figure out." "But Elena ... Double quotes. Rossi hesitated. "There's more. The bug was placed inside a book, one from Vincent's personal collection. The only people who have access to that office are family and senior members. You think it's someone internal? I know it is. Which means we have a traitor." They entered the building. The usual ambient noise of the club was absent. This part had been shut down, secured. Men in suits stood at strategic positions, their tension palpable. Vincent's office was crowded. His inner circle, all 12 senior members, stood in uncomfortable silence. Vincent himself stood at his desk, his expression cold and controlled, but Elena saw the fury simmering underneath. "Elena," he said when she entered. "Good. You're here," Rossi told me. "Someone has been feeding information to the FBI." Vincent's voice was ice. "Someone in this room. Someone I trusted." The men shifted uncomfortably. These were people who'd served the Dante family for years, some for decades. The accusation of betrayal was devastating. "Boss, we'd never," one of them started. "Save it." Vincent picked up a device from his desk. The bug, Elena realized. This was placed 3 weeks ago, the day after our meeting about transitioning the Brooklyn operations to legitimate holdings. Only people in this room knew about that meeting. "Could be outside contractors," Rossi suggested. "Cleaning crew, maintenance. We swept everyone. This was planted by someone with intimate access." Vincent's gaze swept the room. "So here's what's going to happen. Each of you will submit to a polygraph. We'll go through your communications, your financials, everything. And whoever did this ... His voice dropped to something lethal. "They're going to wish they'd never been born." The room erupted in protests, not at the investigation, but at the implication that any of them could betray the family. Elena watched it all, her mind racing. And then she remembered. "We believe there's a faction within the Dante organization planning to remove Vincent from power." Agent Chun had warned her, had known this was coming, which meant the FBI had their own intelligence about the internal threat, which meant they might know who the traitor was. Elena pulled out her phone, typing quickly. "The bug you told me about, do you know who placed it?" She sent it to the number on Agent Chun's card. The response came within a minute. "Yes, but that information has a price. Meet me. Same place. 1 hour." Elena looked up at Vincent, saw him directing Rossi to organize the interrogations, saw the strain on his face as he grappled with betrayal from within his own family. She made a choice. "I need some air," she said quietly to Rossi. He nodded, distracted by the chaos. Elena slipped out. Agent Chun was already at Calf Lucia when Elena arrived, sitting at the same corner table. "You know who's betraying him," Elena said without preamble. "I do. Tell me. In exchange for what? What do you want?" Chun studied her carefully. "I want you to understand that when this goes down, when Vincent deals with the traitor, there will be fallout. The FBI will move in. We'll have no choice. The evidence of criminal activity will be too blatant to ignore. So you want me to convince Vincent to let you handle it? Turn the traitor over to the authorities? I want you to convince him to walk away, to finally make the break from the family business completely. Because if he doesn't, he's going down with the ship." Elena's throat tightened. "He won't walk away. Not while someone's trying to destroy everything he's built. Then he's going to prison. Or worse." Chun leaned forward. But you don't have to go down with him. You and your brother, I can protect you. Right now, tonight. We can have you out of the city before anyone knows you're gone. And Vincent made his choices long before you came into his life. Those choices have consequences. Elena felt something break inside her chest. You're asking me to abandon him. I'm asking you to save yourself. She stood, her voice shaking. Tell me who the traitor is. Chun hesitated, then sighed. Marco Rossi. The world tilted. No, you're lying. Rossi has been with Vincent for 15 years. He's family. He's also drowning in gambling debts. $500,000 to various bookmakers. The kind of debt that makes people desperate. Makes them make deals with people they shouldn't. Chun pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. It's all here. Bank records, phone logs, recorded conversations. Rossi's been feeding us information for 6 months. In exchange, we agreed to clear his debts and give him immunity. Elena opened the folder with trembling hands. It was all there. Proof. Irrefutable, damning proof. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Because Rossi knows we know. And he knows the walls are closing in. Which means he's about to do something desperate. And desperate men are dangerous. Chun stood. Go home, Elena. Pack a bag. Call your brother. And get out. Tonight. Before this whole thing explodes. I can't just leave him. You can. You should. Because in about 12 hours, Vincent Dante is going to find out his most trusted advisor betrayed him. And when he does, the resulting chaos will destroy everything and everyone in its path, including you. Elena clutched the folder, her mind unable to process what she was holding. Rossi, kind, loyal Rossi, who'd trained her and protected her and made her feel like family. Rossi had betrayed them all. That night, 11:47 p.m., Elena returned to the penthouse to find Vincent already there, standing at the window, a glass of bourbon in his hand. Where were you? He asked without turning. I needed air to think about. Elena set the folder on the table. About this. Vincent turned, his eyes falling on the FBI seal stamped on the folder's cover. Where did you get that? FBI agent Robert Chun. He's been investigating your organization. And he knows who planted the bug. Vincent moved to the table, opening the folder. Elena watched as he read, watched his understanding, and enraged, and then something like devastation crossed his face. Rossi, he breathed. I'm so sorry. Vincent slammed his fist on the table, the sound cracking through the silence. 15 years. I've known him for 15 years. I trusted him with my life, with my family, with you. He's in debt, desperate. The FBI used that against him. I would have helped him. If he'd just come to me, told me he was in trouble. Vincent's voice broke. I would have moved heaven and earth to help him. Elena moved closer. He was ashamed. Men like him, they don't ask for help. They think they can handle it themselves until they can't. And now what? We have proof he's a traitor. Proof he's been feeding information to the FBI. I have to deal with this. How? Vincent looked at her, and Elena saw something terrible in his eyes. You know how? Vincent, no, you can't. He betrayed the family. There are rules, consequences. He's also a person you've known for 15 years. A person who made a mistake that could send us all to prison. Then turn him over to the authorities. Let the justice system handle it. You mean let the FBI handle it? Let them use him to build a case against me. Vincent shook his head. I can't do that. So you're just going to kill him. Is that it? Is that the only solution you can think of? It's the only solution that protects the family. Elena grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. And what about protecting your soul? What about protecting the man you're trying to become? You told me you wanted to go legitimate, to build something better. But if you do this, if you kill Rosie, you're choosing the old world over the new. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. That's what makes you different from your father, from the old guard. You think before you act. You look for better solutions. Don't let rage make you into something you're not. Vincent pulled away from her, pacing. What would you have me do? Just let him walk away. Let the FBI win. I'd have you be smart, strategic. What did you tell me once? The people who survive in your world are the ones who can separate emotion from strategy. So separate them. What's the strategic move? Vincent stopped pacing, his mind clearly racing. The strategic move, ... He turned to face her, is to use this. To control the narrative. How? Rossi gave the FBI information. But what if we feed them information through Rossi? False information. Lead them in the wrong direction while we complete the legitimization process. Alina felt hope kindle. Can you do that? If I'm careful. If I keep Rossi close enough to control what he reports, but not close enough to do real damage. Vincent ran a hand through his hair. But he has to know I know. Has to understand that his life is in my hands. Will he cooperate? If the alternative is death. Yes. Vincent moved to his phone, dialing. Rossi. My office. Now. 30 minutes later, Rossi arrived at the penthouse, clearly expecting to discuss the interrogation plans. What he found instead was Vincent standing beside his desk, the FBI folder open in front of him. Boss, sit down, Marco. The use of his first name made Rossi freeze. In all the years Elena had worked with them, Vincent had always called him Rossi. The informality now felt ominous. Rossi sat, his face pale. How long? Vincent asked quietly. I don't know what. Don't. Vincent's voice was steel. Don't lie to me. Not now. I know about the gambling. I know about the debts. I know you've been feeding information to the FBI for 6 months. What I don't know is how you could look me in the eye every day and betray me. Rossi's face crumpled. I didn't have a choice. You always had a choice. You could have come to me and said what? That I'd gambled away $500,000. That I'd compromised the family with my weakness. You would have. I would have helped you. Vincent's control slipped, rage flooding through. Do you understand that? I would have cleared your debts, gotten you help, protected you. Instead, you went to my enemies. They threatened my family. Said if I didn't cooperate, they'd prosecute my wife for tax evasion, put my kids in foster care. They lied to you. The FBI uses fear and manipulation. That's their playbook. And you fell for it. Rossi was crying now, not dramatically but quietly, the tears of a man who'd lost everything. I'm sorry. God, Vincent, I'm so sorry. Vincent stood, moving to the window. For a long moment, he said nothing. Elena held her breath, watching the war play out across his shoulders. Finally he spoke. You have 2 options. Option 1, I deal with this the traditional way. You disappear. Your family gets a generous settlement, and the rest of my organization learns what happens to traitors. Rossi's face went white. Option 2, you continue feeding information to the FBI. But from now on, the information you give them is exactly what I tell you to give them. You become my double agent. You lead them away from anything real, while I complete the transition to legitimate operations. And when it's done, when I'm clean, you retire. Move somewhere far from here. Live quietly. And we never speak again. Hope flickered in Rossi's eyes. You'd let me live. I'd let you serve your pendants. But, Marco, Vincent turned to face him. If you deviate even slightly from the script I give you, if you try to play both sides, if you do anything to endanger my family or Elena. Option 1 comes back on the table. Permanently? Understood. Yes, I understand. Good. Now get out. I'll contact you tomorrow with your first set of instructions. Rossi stood, moving toward the door. He paused at the threshold, looking back. Vincent, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank her. Vincent nodded toward Elena. She's the only reason you're still breathing. When Rossi left, Elena moved to Vincent's side. You did the right thing, did I? Or did I just compromise my principles and put us all at risk? You chose mercy over vengeance. That takes more strength than killing him would have. Vincent pulled her close. This is why I need you. You make me believe I can be better than what I was raised to be. You already are better. You just forget sometimes. They stood together, looking out at the city. A city that had witnessed their journey from desperate strangers to partners to something deeper. Something neither of them had words for. Agent Chun told me I should run, Elena said quietly. Said that when this all comes crashing down, I should take Marco and disappear. Start over somewhere safe. Vincent's arms tightened around her. Is that what you want? What I want is a life with you. Whatever that looks like. Wherever that is. Even if it means danger. Even if the FBI is still watching. Even if we might lose everything. We won't lose everything. Because we have each other. Elena turned in his arms to face him. 3 months ago, you told me you wanted to build something new. Something that's ours. So let's build it. For real. Let's finish the transition, go completely legitimate, and leave this life behind. It'll take time. Maybe a year or more, to fully extricate ourselves. Then we take the time. I'm not going anywhere. Vincent kissed her, soft and desperate and full of promise. I love you. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. I love you too. My dangerous, complicated, brilliant man. He smiled against her lips. Your man. I like the sound of that. Good. Because you're stuck with me. Promise? Promise. 1 year later, December, the restaurant was Vincent's newest venture, a high-end Italian place in Tribeca that had been profiled in the Times and was already booked solid for months. It was also completely legitimate. No backroom deals, no laundered money, no connections to the old life. Just good food, good wine, and honest business. Elena stood in the dining room, watching the opening night crowd mingle and laugh. Claire was there, looking elegant and proud. Vincent's family occupied a large corner table. His mother Gianna, various aunts and uncles, Nonna Lucia, holding court. Marco sat with them, healthy and thriving, telling an animated story that had Gianna laughing. A year had changed everything. The FBI investigation had quietly closed after Rossi fed them months of false leads that went nowhere. Eventually, they'd realized they were chasing ghosts and moved on to easier targets. The legitimization process had been completed. Vincent had divested from all criminal operations, sold his interests to other family members who wanted to maintain the old ways, and built an empire of legal businesses. It hadn't been easy. There had been resistance, threats, moments where Elena had genuinely feared they wouldn't survive. But they had, together. Vincent appeared at her side, slipping an arm around her waist. What are you thinking about? How far we've come. We have, haven't we? He pressed a kiss to her temple. From a desperate girl lying on a job application and a cynical crime boss looking for loyalty. To this, he agreed. Though I should mention, I'm not entirely out of the criminal life. Elena's heart skipped. What? Vincent pulled a small box from his pocket, dropping to one knee right there in the middle of his restaurant. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to watch. Elena Ricci, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten how to feel anything real. You challenged me, changed me, made me want to be better than I thought possible. You stood by me when it was dangerous, when it was hard, when anyone with sense would have run. His voice was steady, but Elena could see emotion shining in his eyes. I'm stealing you, right now, for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me? Elena was crying and laughing at the same time. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a yes? Of course it's a yes, you impossible man. Vincent slid the ring onto her finger, a single platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and perfect. The restaurant erupted in applause and cheers. Vincent stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like promises and second chances and futures they'd fought to build. When they finally broke apart, Elena whispered against his lips, I told you once that I wasn't what you deserved, and I told you I didn't want perfect. Vincent smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. I just wanted real. And you're the most real thing that's ever happened to me. Good, Elena said, echoing the words that had started their journey. Because I'm not going anywhere. They kissed again, as their families cheered. As snow began to fall outside the windows, as the city they'd fought so hard to survive in sparkled with possibility. Two souls who'd had nothing left to lose, who'd found everything in each other, who'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is love someone completely, and that sometimes, that's also the bravest thing. The house in Westchester was smaller than the Dante family estate, but still substantial 5 bedrooms. A yard where Marco could throw a football, space for a family to grow. Elena walked through the nursery, putting final touches on the pale yellow walls. They'd decided not to find out that Gender wanted to be surprised. Vincent appeared in the doorway, looking rumpled and happy in jeans and a sweater, so different from the man in expensive suits she'd first met. Nona called. She's coming over tomorrow with approximately 17 casseroles. I tried to stop her. Elena laughed. You can't stop Nona Lucia. You should know that by now. Fair point. Vincent moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her growing belly. How are you feeling? Fat, tired, happy, you're beautiful, you're biased, completely. He rested his chin on her shoulder. Do you ever think about how we got here? How this all started? Elena covered his hands with hers. All the time. I think about walking into your office, terrified and desperate, about you seeing past every reason you should have thrown me out. I think about you staying, even when it was dangerous, even when you had every reason to run. I told you, I don't run from real things. And you're the most real thing I've ever known. Vincent turned her in his arms, kissing her softly. I love you, Mrs. Dante. I love you too. They stood there in the nursery of their home, surrounded by the life they'd built together, a life that had started in shadows and desperation, but had become something beautiful and true. Outside, the sun set over their yard, painting everything in shades of gold. And in that moment, Elena knew they hadn't just survived their story, they'd won it.